Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more month than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however, emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident. Good day and welcome to Give a Heck. On today's show, I welcome Naomi Mamiye. Naomi was at rock bottom, divorced with 4 kids and no income or family to lean on. She was wallowing in misery, however, turned away from negativity and turned her hardships into strengths and changed the course of her life forever. Naomi decided to monetize her given talents and use her creativity to support family and herself. People laughed when she said she was starting a design firm. Instead of letting it bring her down, she used it to fuel, to propel herself ahead and prove them wrong. Naomi pushed herself hard to get to the top of the design world. In order to accomplish this, she did her first few projects free of charge to get her name out. Once she earned a good reputation, one referral came after the next, and she never had to advertise or look back. Today, she is leading healthcare designer in the US and inspires others as well, and spends countless hours helping beginning designers set up and start their own businesses. Naomi believes that a true leader, creates more leaders. I'd like to welcome you to the show, Naomi. Thanks so much for agreeing to come on and share with us some of your life journey.
Thank you.
So, Naomi, to start off, I like discussing with people and finding out about their origin story, not their background or their back end story, where people start in the middle and talk about, just from their adulthood forward. I like knowing everything about people because I find it all ties back to experiences, joys, challenges, trials, tribulations from our childhood. And I think it's important that we do a deep dive into people's lives because really the superficial stuff doesn't really help us connect with one another. So tell me your origin story and what key things from your childhood to adulthood that led you to where you're at currently.
Okay. So, my origins. Oh, this is a first. Okay. So my mother came from the Ukraine and my father came from Poland, and they both moved to New York, living in the same apartment building, and that's how they met. Um, so, and many years later, they had me, and my grandfather started back then a ladies' undergarment company, and he would always, my father worked with him. He would always bring home samples of fabrics and trimmings, and I used to play around with them. And I think like the creativity was in the genes already, in the making. Back then, I would tell people I did not have access to a sewing machine, so I used to take these samples that my father brought home, and I used to just safety pin them all together and make myself a shirt, a bottom, a skirt. So it started back then, but growing up in New York, I kind of we were upper class family. I kind of thought my life would look like I'd just be doing lunch with the ladies every single day, having my kids, taking them to their lessons after school, and have the ideal princess life. But like everyone else, I'm sure is aware of, life is full of unexpected curveballs. And my when I was 10 years old, my mother got sick with skin cancer and died. Um, then my stepmother didn't want me. So then I went to live with grandparents. And then one of them got sick with cancer. So then I switched to the other grandparent. And over there, another grandparent got sick with cancer. So bottom line is that as an older teenager, all six closest family members died of different cancers, and I was all on my own, and I wanted that home, that stability. So I ended up marrying young to somebody that was not the right fit for me out of desperation, foolish, foolish child. So I jumped into something just for that home, and it wasn't the right fit. So years later, I found myself with four little kids and divorced and nobody to help me out. So I had to turn to my creativity to support myself. And as my kids were young, people used to come see my house and they used to say like, "Oh, wow, you should do this for a living. It's so beautiful." And I said, "Nah, the kids were still young. That's not really what I wanted to do." But when you're put in that situation, you have to make some major decisions. And since you did not have that money to start a business, I used my creative sense to start something from nothing. You don't need money to invest into, like I explain when I see these women and they're kind of stuck. I said, well, can you sew? You could be a seamstress. Can you put on makeup well? Be a makeup artist. Can you do hair well? Go, do open a salon, go work in a salon, and then open your own salon. Even men, I'm like, are you good at plumbing? There's so many rich electricians and plumbers, and people don't realize that they live really well. There's some mansions in the neighborhood where they're plumbers. So people are mistaken and they don't realize how much their God-given talents could actually give them a future.
That's amazing. I love your origin. It's that your parents met in the same apartment. That is quite unique. I've never heard that before.
Mhm.
And your grandfather having a ladies' undergarment, you were ingenious. Like you said, he didn't have a sewing machine, and you used safety pins like to create things. That's just so already your unique personality of wanting to not stay stifled and be controlled was already started at a very young age, because most kids wouldn't think to do what you did.
Uh,
So that's very unique. It's unfortunate that yourself and me have had so many people die from the number one, I think it's the number one cause of death in the world now is cancer. I've had so many people lost to cancer as well, so sorry for your loss. It is terrible. And then I think we've all, in some way, shape, or form, we've felt unwanted. It's unfortunate that you had to go from step parent not wanting you to a grandparent that got cancer, and then go to another grandparent and the same thing happens. And the listeners, a lot of people get married out of desperation. And Naomi's not the only person. I did as well. um my listeners that have listened quite for a while now know that I was a single dad with 5 kids, so I can relate to you. And when I actually went through your stuff, and it resonated a lot with me because of the fact there's similarities. I got married out of desperation, married the wrong person, same similar situation. And then a few years later, things didn't work out, even a joint custody situation. And I ended up having my kids full time. So I can appreciate what you've gone through. But the biggest thing I want to say is kudos to you for doing it, for not letting others define you by their criticisms. And I imagine we'll get into that throughout the conversation, some of the things and challenges that you've had to go through. And lastly, God given talents. So many people don't realize what their God-given talents are. And you bring up the fact that if you're good at this, then go do it, right? And why do a lot of people, you think, don't want to do it? So if they have a God-given talent, what would you say would be the reason why people wouldn't step out on faith?
Right. So my specialty, for some reason, veered to healthcare design. I design restaurants and corporate offices, but the most work I do is in the healthcare sector. So I end up seeing, let's say, in nursing homes, hospitals, assisted livings, I end up seeing a lot of old, miserable people. Now, the thing is, when I see them, and they usually, they're very lonely, they try to start conversation with me. They ask me, let's say, oh, are you with the construction crew? And I'm like, yes. And they'll be like, oh, I always wanted to go into construction, but you know, my father wanted me to be a lawyer like him, you know. So I feel terrible because many people have their calling, and they're either pushed by parents to go into their field. Let's say there's so many doctors that their kids are doctors, or lawyers that their kids are lawyers, and but they really inside want to do something else. They're just being pushed and trained to go into that track, because the parents want their children to be like them and follow in their footsteps, and that's not so fair. And actually, I'm guilty of the same thing many years ago. Before I actually changed my mindset, my daughter told me, like, oh, I want to be a teacher. And I said, why would you want to do that? You would work so hard for such little pay, and you'd have to come home and still have to work and still have to grade papers. And I was like, make more money, pick a profession where you'd make more money. And this is like, it's never ending. You go to work and you come home, and the teacher has homework also. So I was discouraging to her. I'm guilty of the same thing. And over time I realized, and that I was so wrong. And today she is a very successful teacher, and she's so happy doing what she always wanted to do. And I've actually met mothers who've students that she taught, and they said, like, your daughter put so much in my child. She changed her life. She gave her so much confidence. And I'm like, wow, to imagine that I tried to get her off this path, because of money. No, your happiness doesn't come from money. It's following your true calling, what you feel you were meant to do. And then another aspect of the same issue is also spouses discouraging each other from following their calling, because they're so used to that steady paycheck. They want their husband, instead of going out and starting that, plumbing business or electric business, they want their husband to go into the office every single day, no matter how miserable he is, because there is a guarantee paycheck at the end of the week. And they like that stability. So they're going to knock down that husband and discourage him from starting something new or following his calling, just because they want that safe feeling. So I find that there are a lot of elderly that are so unhappy, and I see with my own eyes. They're sitting there languishing, and instead of being serene and happy, I had a good life, I fulfilled everything I wanted to. So many of them are just miserable, just so miserable, because they spent a life doing every single day what they didn't want to be doing.
Yeah, it's what a great response. It is so true though. I look at the senior clients I have, or I'll talk to the children and they'll tell me stories about how their parents were comfortable, they did okay, but you never hear them say they were happy. Or they'll be talking about themselves. Maybe I'm actually talking to this senior, just similar to you, and they talk about, oh, if their kids were this and that, they were successful, but never do I hear them say, oh, my parents were happy, they were joyous, we did all this, they prioritized us as a family, we went vacations together, we spent weekends together, they worked as a necessary thing to support us and feed us and have a roof over our head, but we were always a priority. It was really joyful childhood. And I don't hear that thing from many people. And you are so correct. And it's sad, actually. It's very sad, like hear stories of wish I would have, as you mentioned, or the example you gave of your daughter wanting to be a teacher. That was tough for me with 5 kids as well, because I have one of my daughters now who's an adult, and everything she wants to do in life she ties to a dollar sign, right? And I'll say to her, is that something you really want to do? Because she's looking at going back to school. And I went with her to the college a few weeks ago. She's got a couple kids, single mom, broken family. Unfortunately, it's not, I shouldn't say broken. That's a terrible term to say, but, a disconnected family that just didn't function. And now she's a single parent with 3 kids and wants to go back to school. We went to the college and she's asking the questions to the administrator, and they're all designed around money, right? And we got outside and we're standing there before she was going to leave because we just met there. And I said to her, I said, well, that money will only give you temporary satisfaction. You need to enjoy what you do, because you're not going to always 100% enjoy what you do every single day. But in most days, if you have the right mindset, you like what you do, you bring that home to your family. Because people that say, oh, I leave work at the office, that's a bunch of BS. It does not stay at the office. If you're miserable at the office, you're bringing your misery home. So I liked you bringing up that too, and that, to hear the start of it and then hear the end of the fact that people appreciate your daughter, and students you've had the opportunity and the pleasure to speak to people about how much she's changed them. That's great. See, it's not bad that you initially did that to your daughter. What's good about what you talked about is that you had that realization, and that you have that realization today, and you're sharing it with the listeners, because it can help. If it helps one person, what you just talked about is so important. So I really appreciate that. And lastly, spouses hold each other back due to cash. Oh, absolutely. They get comfortable. I have some clients that are heavy 6-figure earners, and they literally despise what they do, but they do it because they're significant. It doesn't always happen with women to men. It can be men to women. I have circumstances like that too, where everything in life, listeners, cannot be defined by money. Why? Because having money, if you're miserable and then you all of a sudden discover you're going to one of the people that is going to have cancer, you're not going to be thinking, oh, I'm glad I did all this stuff and I made all this money for my family. You're going to have regrets. It just, because I've dealt with so many people have died from cancer, more than 6, especially because of my career. Unfortunately, death is predominant. And when people are on their deathbed, they're not talking to me about the fact that they wish they would have worked a little bit more and made a little bit more money. They're talking about they wish they would have done more things with their kids growing up, or with their spouse, or, just enjoyed life. So, do what's a passion for you, as Naomi said. And if you fail, whatever, all failure is a stepping stone to your success, right? If you look at failure as a negative, you will always stay held back, right? So, Naomi, I myself, as I mentioned to you, I've been at rock bottom too, and was divorced with 5 kids and was forced to pivot to support my family and me. I know it could be a character building journey to level up and change, and that it can be extremely tough to do it on one's own. You fought past all your challenges and turned your hardships into strengths and started on a course that changed your life forever. Can you share with the listeners and I what or who inspired you on the journey to change?
Okay. So when I told my ex-husband that I think I want to monetize on my creativity and open up a design firm. He started laughing at me that nobody's going to pay me for my arts and crafts. So that kind of fueled me to, I'm going to prove him wrong, and today I make more money than him. Um, so I accomplished. He didn't believe in me. And the same thing went for a very close friend of mine. At that time, I went to my first design show in the Jacob Javits Center in the city, which is huge. And since I was starting, from booth to booth, I kept gathering pamphlets and all the information. And I was walking around with real heavy bags. And she turned to me and said, who do you think you're going to design for? So after that day, I kind of gave myself encouragement by uh, putting signs in different places. Her name was Ricky. So every time I opened my closet, I had a sign there that said, "Show Ricky." So it kind of pumped me up to prove my ex-husband, my close friend, nobody believes it. I'm gonna show them. Like it gave me that, and sometimes you forget, but if you keep seeing the sign, even in my like spice cabinets over here, one of them it's still there. One of them is, you open it up, it says "Dream Big," and the other one you open up, it says "Dream Bigger." I'm still, pushing myself to the top. So it's not letting the discouragement get you down, and it's also believing that, let's say going for an interview and you don't get the job, instead of letting it pull you down, it's believing that it's meant to be for somebody else and not for you, that there's a better fit or something better coming along for you. So many people they get crushed when they get that no after an interview. It hurts being rejected, but if you have belief that there's a right place, right time, right fit for you, you understand that the right door for you, the right match that will open. It's just having patience and not getting down, or when you're down, pulling yourself back up. I mean, so many times, life throws me, unexpected things, and I do get down and I do get upset, but it's just like, and then I remember right away, get off that negativity track and pull myself out of it, get back on the correct train track of positivity, because the negativity just brings more negativity. The positivity brings more positivity. So I just have to just remember, when you fall, pull yourself right back up if you do fall. But if you have that strong belief, it'll get you places.
Oh yeah, what a great answer. Ex made fun of you. I've had that. Friends make fun of you. I've had that. It's just, it's in some ways weirdly comfortable to hear people's responses to in our conversations, because we find out that we are so much more, we're so similar, yet we're different, but there's always commonalities, and the little stickers. I love that. I've got a couple right over. You can see them if you look at my picture. You see a blue and a yellow one. I got so you and I are a lot alike. I love it. It's just great. The pamphlets and like I can actually visualize it. You're actually a very good storyteller. I can picture you picking up all these pamphlets and your friends saying, "Well, who are you going to design for?" And I can hear like a snarky tone in my head. It's like unbelievable. Yeah, you're very good at that. The Dream Bigger stickers, I like that. Left, right side of the cupboard. One of the things though that really resonated with me, and this is something that some of my mentors and coaches have over the years, and I also coached people about it too, is things don't happen to you, they happen for you. You brought that up in your conversation. Things happen for you. And if we can have that mindset that things happen for us, we're more receptive, I believe, to taking chances, opportunities, and looking for the silver lining as opposed to things that happen to us that may seem negative. We're going to wallow in that negativity, or we can choose to look at it as that it's happened for me. So what's the message? What do I need to learn? And am I going to be tenacious enough to not let the exes or the best friends slow me down? Because what happens, I find, and maybe you'll disagree, I'll have something that happens and I want to share it with that person that is in my life or that I see all the time. They may not necessarily be close to me. And I'll share an idea, not thinking, really, is this the right person to talk to this about? Is it going to come back to me as a negative? Or do I need to talk to somebody to slap me upside the head? Maybe I'm, my head's in the clouds, but I think we need to constantly strive to communicate our ideas. And as we continue to level up and grow, like you have been doing for many years and continue to, we have to be cognizant of our associations and who we speak to. And you probably heard it, like many people say, we are the sum of the five closest people in our lives, which can be family, can be friends. And sometimes we have even more than that. But the more as I grow older, the more I develop as a person, it is true. My five closest people, I may have 100 people in my life as associations, but the five closest are the ones that I would go talk to that would give me constructive criticism. They would know how to wordsmith, which is basically they'd know how to communicate and say the right thing to me the right way, because we get things said to us every day. You may agree with me, by people that don't know how to say it properly, but the message was good. But we don't catch the message because they said it the wrong way.
Mhm.
So I loved. Any thoughts on that?
You're absolutely correct.
Right.
Yeah, one sentence either can make you or break you, and it's also the tone of the
Tonality,
way it's
yes.
said. Yeah.
Yeah, tonality. And people, I get people that really embrace the fact when I'm coaching them or just having conversations with people, and they'll say, well, what do you do? Well, I said, I've been telling myself now this for 20 years that I am a student of human nature. And they'll go, what do you mean by that? Well, I watch body language. I listen for tonality. I suppose especially don't always just focus on the words. I look at the whole picture of their body, because we don't know what that person just went through before we communicated with them. Just like you and I starting today, I don't know what you had your day prior to this. You don't know mine either. So I look to see if they're actually connected and present when they're communicating with me, because I find it so easy to blow people out of the water, and I'm human. I work on it every day, um, just to be more, empathetic, right? To actually look at them and be courageous enough for me to say, you know what? I watched you as I said that. Did I say something wrong? If I did, I apologize. Let's talk about it. Instead of just walking away, being matter of factly and being, like whatever, if they didn't like what I said, being, be a jerk, I guess, be the word for it. Just actually listening to people and being willing to be vulnerable. I think that's one of the things that a lot of entrepreneurs or just people in general need to do, is learn to be vulnerable, learn to listen to people's body language, and understand that they're, it's a little microdot of what you know about their life in the big scheme of things, and just be compassionate and caring. So I know you had people who laughed at you, Naomi, when you were starting your own design firm, as you just mentioned. And it actually just flows. What we just talked about flows into the next question just wonderfully. So, and that you use this negativity to propel you forward and prove the naysayers wrong. As we were just talking, can you share what processes or tools, besides the sticky notes, that you utilize to keep yourself driven and moving forward to achieve the success you now have?
Right. So for many, many years, I was wallowing in the past and just rewinding things in my mind over and over. Like, I should have said this to my mother. I should have said that to my father. I should have done this way, that way. And, over time, I've come to realize, over that time, I've come to realize that it was just a complete waste of time, because I can't correct or change anything that happened in the past. And and at that particular time when I was getting divorced, all the rage was, everybody was talking about The Secret Book. Now, I am the one that usually I do my own thing. If I see everybody doing one thing, I always go I do something else. I go my own, make my own path, my own way. So everybody's reading this book, but I decided I'm not going to read the book. She quotes a bunch of people in her book. So instead of reading her book, I'm going to read where she takes all this information from, all these, and so I ended up reading, Wallace Wattles and, James Allen, As a Man Thinketh, it's from, and it like, it astounded me. It's from, written in 1913, As a Man Thinketh, but it's so relevant to today. I felt like he was standing right beside me. I couldn't believe it. He's talking to me. And I came to realize that the power of positivity. And because I was wallowing in the past and just constantly saying my life is so unfair, how did God do this to me? Another cancer patient, like again and again. There's so many times I said, why me? And it came to realize, like, why not me? What makes me, special? What makes me different? Why not me? So I made that decision after I got divorced. I made a conscious decision that I'm going to let go of the past. I'm going to stop rewinding, and I'm going to stop thinking about it because it's useless. And I'm just going to focus forward. And I'm going to look at all the blessings I have in life, and I'm going to look at everything with gratitude, and my cup overfloweth with goodness. And as little as some people have, they always could find somebody with less. So I changed my mindset. And it's still a battle. It's still a battle. I lived, my teenage years, from after my mother died at 12 till I got married at 19. Those years I lived with old people, and they taught me to constantly worry. Like, as for example, as soon as my first child was born, the first thing that came to my mind was, oh my God, who's he going to marry? The kid is a newborn, and I'm already fast tracking ahead. I'm worried about 20 years ahead. So I had this worry mentality. It was it was hard work to reprogram myself, and I still catch myself worrying about stupidity. And I have to, pull myself back and say, what are you doing? Like, realizing, that on that, again, that negative path, that useless path, and pull myself back. And so it's constant work. It's a constant battle. It's not like you change overnight, or every person gets knocked down throughout life. And I feel like you have to keep on pumping yourself, keep on. So when I am cooking dinner, I'll take my laptop, I'll put it in front of me, and I'll watch inspirational speaker on YouTube while I'm actually chopping vegetables. That's all, free time that I have. Most of the time I'm working. I don't have time for that. But as I'm cooking, I can have in the background, motivation going. So it's a non-stop cycle of pumping yourself and giving yourself encouragement and giving yourself the good word and hearing how other people succeeded. And I always tell people, like, find yourself a mentor, find yourself, let's say, somebody from your high school, somebody from your city, from your town, from your state, anyone that you could relate to, not some far off celebrity, somebody that you could connect to that, came from the same upbringing as you and became successful, and know and look up to them as they can do it and you can do it too. I think it's very important, because so many successful people are unrelatable, but everybody can find somebody within their community that did make it, that did push themselves through hardship and become successful. You got to look for it, find it, and look up to them. How did they do it? Give yourself that boost and encouragement on a nonstop basis, because so many things in life go wrong, or not as you expected it to, and you need that constant pumping for yourself. So it's very important to always listen to motivation, and find that mentor. Me myself, at the same time, it's like all coordinated from God. At that time that I was getting divorced, I was on Facebook, which back then was all new and everything. I got that, you may know this person. And I looked at the picture. It was a professional picture of somebody from high school. And I clicked on it, and I saw all these things this guy accomplished. And I was shocked. And I looked at myself. I said, what have I done? I have done nothing. I have nothing to my name. And this guy has a whole roster of accomplishments. And I gave myself a challenge, and I said, I'm going to become bigger than him, I'm going to become greater than him. I was embarrassed for myself that all these years passed and I had done nothing. I had done nothing. So that also, between the books I read, the changing mindset, that person that I looked up to, that gave me that encouragement from my high school. And he has no idea. He has no idea, that he created a monster.
He was a catalyst for you.
Exactly. So you don't know, even with this podcast, you don't know how many people you encourage, or you can change your lives. You would have no idea, but if you stick to positivity, you have no idea that you can actually change the world, change a life, by changing a life, you actually change the world. So it's all hidden.
Listeners, for those of you that are watching this on my YouTube channel, you'll understand the joy in Naomi's face just at the end here as she's been talking is amazing. Listeners, go watch it on YouTube. You need to see it. This is amazing. I love the fact that you talk about, stop rewinding, right? I've never heard somebody put it the way that you put it. It's true, though. We constantly are rewinding and living in the past, and people, right, that live in the past suffer from most people that live in the past and can't let go of it suffer from depression. And then there's those that live worrying about tomorrow and the future, and they're anxious. You just have to live and be present today. So, like you said, you look at your blessings, your cup overflows, right? Overflows with good things that happen to us. And I believe that God has blessed all of us, right? We just have to be cognizant to understand, that there's people around us, that we have the greatness inside of us, and we just have to step out on faith. But too many people don't know how to do that. I like the fact that because I do the same thing. I'll be doing something and I'll put on a podcast and I'm listening to it. I'll tell Google to play a podcast, or, I'm in my vehicle, I'll start listening to a podcast, or I'll hit Audible, listen to a book when I'm doing something, because I always want to feed myself. Because I find when we're driving or we're cooking and there's no sound, all those little thoughts can tend to creep in and they can overtake us. Instead, when we have that opportunity, we can keep them at bay and keep those negative thoughts compartmentalized where they should be in a back room of our brain, and constantly feeding ourselves. So I like the fact that you said you watch videos while you're cooking, because you said that's my time. That is imperative. That is your time. How are you choosing to do it? And you talked about worry, and yeah, people don't realize when you worry, you're actually suffering twice. And what do I mean by that? Because I coach on this. If you have something that you think's going to happen, and you don't know when it's going to happen, you're worried about it, you're anxious about it, and all of a sudden you stress yourself out. Who knows how long? It could be hours, days, weeks, months. I've had people tell me it's been years. Then the thing you were worried about happens, and it's traumatizing. It's not what you wanted. Now you're worried about how are you going to fix it, or what's going to happen after the fact. So now you literally torture yourself twice. But that's something I have to work on every single day, because I woke up with, I was born and raised with people that worried, similar to what you were talking about.
Mhm.
And learned behavior is sometimes tough to beat out of ourselves. So I loved how you shared that. And I like the fact that you're motivated by that Facebook friend. Well, not necessarily a friend, but somebody you knew in school that accomplished all this, and you were bound and determined you're going to do more than them. And I like that, because if we don't instill confidence in ourselves and certainty that we're going to accomplish things, we may not know how we're going to do it or what the path's going to be, but we need to constantly level up our mindset. So from you listening to videos while you cook to having something like that stimulate your drive and desire to accomplish things, kudos to you. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for being vulnerable about that. So, no, Naomi, like many starting entrepreneurs, a person has to work for free to gain a reputation so as to attract business and get hopefully referrals to paying clientele. You personally did your first few projects free of charge to get your name out as a trusted expert. What was this beginning journey like? And can you share some of your experiences on the road to developing your reputation?
So starting out, and I explain this to people, you can do this with the hairdresser and the seamstress. Could also do this just to show people what you can do. People have a very hard time saying no to free. You say the magic word free. I'll design your house for free. Sure, great. There are very few refusals, but you build up your portfolio, you build up your clientele, and it'll take you places once, because people want to know your experience, and then they're not going to know your first 10 clients were didn't pay you a dime. They're going to ask you your experience, and you're going to say, I did this, this, and this, and that. So I think that's a very important way to start anything at all. And reputation, I think, is key. I have the reputation when I save my clients money on a project and I come in under budget, I say, I am the hero. They'll give out my name. Hey, she just saved me $30,000 on my building. She helped me get this wholesale, that wholesale. They're very thankful. And they have buddies that also are buying an investment property or also opening up a new office. They'll pass along your name and number. I was so happy with her. So I'm also very honest with clients. A lot of times I see that they want to do these grand things, and I see it's a complete waste of money and will not accomplish anything, will not, let's say in a rehab center, building all glass walls in Kansas will not get them any. more clients. It will actually detract, people, these in the country don't appreciate this modern look. I'll actually tell them, because you'll have, let's say, a New York guy invests, let's say, in Kansas or Nebraska in a building over there, and they want to make it all cool, their New York style. And I'm like, I'm so flat out honest with them. I said, what you're doing, it doesn't match the community or the environment or the people there. The people there will look at it as very cold and unwelcoming, without warmth. What you envision would be perfect over here in New York, So me being honest, and they appreciate that afterwards. And many people would just like nod their head and say, okay, no problem. You're paying me. I'll do whatever you want me to do, But, when you see something's wrong, and they're making a wrong decision, and it would be a waste of money, I'm not scared to speak up. So they appreciate that very much. And it does good for my reputation, I had somebody just call me for a project, and for the first time, and I said, oh, can I send you a link to my website, to my Instagram? Can I show you some of my work? And they actually told me they're on some kind of chat group, and everybody said there, go with Naomi. She's very honest and straight. And I was like, he didn't even see my work, and he doesn't even care to see my work. He's going on my good name only. He's hiring me. And I was like, I was so happy. It was such a good feeling, So, and another belief that I have, which I also think that helped my success, was believing in that saying as giving more than what you charge for. Always doing a little extra. I'm charging 10 grand for this huge building. I'm giving them 12 grand worth of energy, worth of time, worth of my attention. Always give more than what you're being paid for, and they're left with a very good feeling. Always put in a little bit extra. There are other designers for every little nitty gritty, or like, let's say lawyers, especially, like any extra phone call, they're charging for the 2-minute phone call. Just let it slide. Let it slide. It's gonna make the customer happy, and it's gonna do you good by letting the nitty gritty go. Giving them that little extra, they come away with, she was worth the money. She was worth, she gave me above and beyond. And you're giving away your time, but it's doing you so much good, and people don't realize that.
Yeah, that is so true. I believe in that as well, that you always deliver more, right? Promise one thing and show them the moon, but give them the stars, right? So that is so great. You're right. Hard saying no to free. It just, some of the things you said was, I really like the fact you talked about design for the community, the environment. Things that work in New York aren't going to necessarily work in Nebraska. We're all unique. I know I can speak for Canada, but even my experiences in the US, because I am in Canada, I have so many American friends. I've traveled all over the US, and the northern part of the US is completely different than the southern part. East is different than West. People in California design and communicate, talk differently than somebody in New York. What does it say? We're all unique individuals. So we need to appreciate that fact, which you do. And you've implemented that into your career and how you treat others. So I really do appreciate you and you saying that, and the fact that you're bold and you speak up. Nothing worse than somebody that's meek and uncertain and wishy-washy. I love people that are bold, speak up, but say it, and obviously, as we talked about prior in this conversation, say it in a way that the message resonates and gets across, but you're still bold. You're still the unique individual, and which you are. As we're going to this, I can really appreciate the fact, and I can't imagine how many people you've helped. And just like myself, there's people, you mentioned that too, you might not ever know that you've helped people. And that's why I don't know if this ever happened to you. Well, I guess it did, because you mentioned about the fact that somebody wanted to hire you based on your reputation, didn't care to see your work. I love it when I get the odd DM from people, or a message, or I'll talk to somebody and say, hey, such and such was telling me about you did this for them, or they were listening to your podcast, or whatever the case may be. And they said it had changed their life, and I didn't even know, right? And the person they might be talking about, I really don't even know that person. Oh, John was saying that you helped them with their finances and figure out their goal setting for retirement, and you help them restructure their lives so they live more life on purpose than by accident. And it's important for us to hear those things. So I can see that. I could see your body language when you talked about the fact that somebody was going to hire you based on your reputation, didn't care about your work. That is so fulfilling. Mm-hmm. It is this very satisfying feeling. So yeah, thank you for that. So today you are a leading healthcare designer in the US and actively help and coach other beginning designers to set up and start their own businesses. Most people would just settle in and be content to be a successful entrepreneur. However, you wanted to be a true leader and help others do the same. Can you share why this was so important to you to help others get started, and maybe a success story of how you helped someone get their own leg up?
Right. So, I'm going to tell you my favorite story.
Right on. Let's go.
Okay. Okay. So first, I'll tell you, I believe very much in giving back and helping other people. And whatever you put out comes back to you. So if I put out goodness, I'm getting goodness back. It's not just people, usually when they talk about karma, it's usually about, they use it in a negative term, like, oh, karma, it's going to come back to you. But it's the goodness that's going to come back to too. So I have all these young beginner designers calling me all the time. Can they watch me work? Can I give them advice? And I'm like, sure, come down. And it takes up a tremendous amount of time for me, that where I could be working on my own projects, me showing them samples, reviewing with them, giving them my contacts, all my reps numbers, giving them samples. I go above and beyond for these young girls from my own time, not charging them, out of the goodness of my heart. And I feel like that's how I get, helping them make money is just more helping me make money. They're not, people ask me, but they're going to be competition to you. They're going to go after the same projects. I say, whatever is meant for me is going to come to me. Nobody could take away a project from me that's supposed to be mine. So me helping somebody else, make a living, feed their kids, pay their rent. It just all comes back to me. It all comes back to me. And now to my favorite story is, so
I'm looking forward to it.
So when I was 19 and penniless and getting married, some guy calls me that I don't know how he heard about me. Someone must have told him my story. And he said, I have a furniture company and I'd like to help you out. And he gave me a bedroom set and a dining room set and a couch. And from an empty apartment, he set me up just out of kindness, out of the goodness of his heart. And I thanked him profusely, and life went on. Now, 26 years later, I get a call from somebody that she lives in LA and she's going to be in New York visiting family, and she wanted to know if she could come over and watch me work, or if I could advise her a little bit, if she could sit with me. I'm like, sure, of course, come. So she spent 3 days here in my house, and I sat with her and I explained to her the business. And again, I gave her a bunch of samples. She left with bags. She left with all my best contacts. I gave her the works. And, I asked her just out of curiosity. I said, oh, who's your family here in New York? She says, oh, my maiden name is Bodner. I said, Bodner from the furniture company? Yes, it was her father that helped me out
Wow.
when I was 19 years old and gave me that free furniture. So whoever doesn't believe that by doing good to somebody and helping other people, that'll come back to you. Sometimes you'll see it after a week, 2 months. This is 26 years later. 26 years later that I have no idea who she is. Beginning designer, calls me up for help, and it comes back. Here I am all these years later, helping his daughter start on her own.
Did he ever find out? Is he still alive?
He is still alive. He is still alive. And interesting, I actually saw him in a trade show in like, I think the Javits Center. I said, do you know, I met your daughter. She and he was so thankful. And I'm like, no. Thank you to you. Thank you to you. This has all happened because you helped me. I was able to help her. It all comes back. And you don't know when. This one was 26 years. Took 26 years for the circle to return.
That is such an amazing story. That is, wow, listeners, and I hope that's resonating with you. If not, rewind and listen to it again. That is absolutely, and a great way to think about karma is not always negative, right? I love that. And it's true. I talk about, oh, karma is going to eventually get them. And now you've just taught me something. I need to reframe and retrain my mind to think that karma is not always bad. And you just proved that. I love the fact when you said, whatever is meant for me will come to me. Right?
Right.
Wow.
There's no such thing as competition. So me helping other designers is not going to take anything away from me. And so many people are scared to help other people in their field. You see other people, let's say other podcasters, you giving other podcasters advice is not going to take anything away from you. And people fail to understand. They're like, oh, competition. No, nobody's taking away anything for you. That's meant for you is going to come to you and will be yours. No matter what they do, it can't be taken away. And it's not going to take anything away from yourself, from your business, from your income at all.
People don't realize, though, that even if you give away all your secrets, samples, contacts, like you've been doing so graciously to others, they're not going to get the same people, even if you were in competition, because no matter, in my experience, and I've had different businesses, and if I'm quoting, let's say, against somebody and I'm competing against someone on cost, sometimes I can be exactly the same as somebody else and I get that job. And if I'm bold, which I am, I'll ask them, why did you choose me? I know I was against other people. Because of you. I chose you. It's not always about the numbers. It's not always, even if somebody gets to a level and have all the contacts, all the knowledge of Naomi, they still aren't you. People buy us. They start out with logic, but choices in my life are driven by emotion. And once we admit that, we can take the logic and then we still use emotion. And I've done it myself. I've had people competing when I'm trying to get work done on my house or I'm buying something. And I go with somebody because they're just friendly. They ask me about my family. They try to connect. I'm a relationship builder, and so are you, I can tell. And that relationship can cement and give us business. I can even be more expensive. I've been more expensive than other people quoting on maybe not similar company or a product, but it's something different. And I'm competing against these two. We're competing. We got similarities in what we're offering, and I'm more expensive. And I've had people say, well, you know, we came to you even though you're more expensive. And here's why: because you talked to us. You didn't try just selling us being a product seller. You treated us, like you wanted to know us. You were genuine. That connection is so important. So, and I just totally am blown away though that you literally got furniture for free, and then years later helped out the daughter of the gentleman that did that. That is just that's mind blowing. I love that story. I think that'll stick with me the rest of my life. So I so appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
That people should be more giving, more giving with their not physical things, with their even with their knowledge. Let's say giving someone else in your business, don't use this guy. This guy had a good experience with giving away your contacts, your information. Your information is not going to take anything away, and people are like stingy with that. They're like hold on to information that they could be helping other people with. They're holding themselves back, and because they realize they think that it's going to hurt them, and they fail to realize that there's no such thing. There's no such thing.
Yeah,
So,
that's so true. And I think if we had a society where, as you just said, people should be more giving, I think if we were all more giving, we wouldn't have as many wars. We wouldn't have so much strife and controversy on a family basis, a community basis, a city basis, a world basis. It's just people just they're always holding, oh, I don't want to give that knowledge away because what happens if that person becomes more successful than I?
Exactly. It's jealousy.
Yes,
It's jealousy.
poisons
It
us.
is, but that comes from not believing. That comes from not believing.
Yeah, lack of self-esteem, right? They don't believe enough in themselves. And it goes back to that origin that you and I talked about. A lot of it starts learned behavior from very young, and it's not always family. It can be a teacher that said, you're stupid, you're not worthy. I've heard it all. I had it happen, even in certain circumstances. So yeah, it's a lack of belief. So I so appreciate you sharing that. Thank you so much. So, Naomi, if you had to give our listeners one last closing message, what would you tell them in regards to giving a heck and never giving up?
Okay. I just want to tell them that I am living proof that you can go through so much hardship, so many letdowns in life, so many tragedies, and still come out a success. It shouldn't define you. You can at any moment, change your life. It's all up to you. It's all in you. It's not outside. It's your happiness is from in you, and you're able to change that yourself. So I want to encourage everybody to take risks, follow their dreams. It sounds cliche, but if you don't do it, there's something going to be missing from your life. So take that risk. And you have to be brave for that. So the message is be brave, take that risk, take that leap, go into that field you always wanted to, because that's going to give you the satisfaction and that happiness, that inner serenity in life.
Wow, that's a great closing message. Thanks so much for that. So our time is almost up, and I want to respect our listeners and your time. However, before we end, can you please tell the listeners what is the best way to reach you?
Okay, so my contact information is on my website, Naomi Mamiye Design, NaomiMamiye, design.com, or I'm also on Instagram at Naomi Mamiye Design. Anybody is free to reach out for me for mentoring, anything that they need. I am happy to help in any possible way. If they need a little bit of encouragement, a good word, I'm here to give it.
I so appreciate that. I'll make sure For the new listeners, you can check out my website at giveaheck.com. Go into the podcast portal and you'll be able to find Naomi's beautiful picture. Go and check her bio, and I'll ensure all the links are available there for her website and her social media so that you can easily connect with her. So thanks so much for being on Give a Heck, Naomi. I appreciate your time and sharing some of your experiences so that others too can learn it is never too late to give a heck. Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.